Hey guys, VaulSC here, hope you're doing well. We're going to take a look at another game of Conquest, the last argument of kings between 100 kingdoms and city-states. This will be on the scenario of Forlorn Hope. This time I'll be trying out a little bit of a different variety of 100 kingdoms. Going to be using the Order of the Shield character who grants you access to the Ashen Dawn, obviously without necessarily having to bring him in as the sub-faction. And my opponent, Darren, playing city-states. We don't get him out to gaming very often, but he's been back, and just a very beautiful army that you guys would have seen many photos of online and in Tabletop Simulator, painted by our homeboy Hayden, aka Hobby Hobo. But this turned out to be a really interesting game and taught me a little bit about the new rules for 100 kingdoms, so let's just jump into it, where we'll take a look at the army list being used. Me, of course, with the 100k over here. So, first thing that we want to try out this game is the brand shiny new Errant of the Order of the Shield. I quite like this character, even when you aren't using his supremacy ability in the context of the knightly orders. Obviously, if you do build the army around the orders in particular, then you can have the Prior Commander and you can have the Errant Order of the Shield, etc., etc., and you can bring in some really cheap infantry, which helps that kind of list. But you are still running a lot of heavies in that kind of scenario, unless I suppose if you go with a lot of Sealed Temple. But the thinking is at the moment in the competitive meta for Conquest is that you don't want to take too many heavies because it's too easy to fall behind in the scoring game if you do that. But this is going to be the only heavy regiment on the list, this one beautiful unit of Ashen Dawn. I really like that setup because on turn 3 you just pick that unit to come on automatically and it adds so much muscle to the rest of the army, which is reliant on the smaller regiments and the overall faction buffs, etc. The other great thing about this guy is that even though you can't take this character in the same list as a Theist character, he still has access to the Elysian Fragment, which allows you to give Cleave 3 to a Theist regiment, which is the Militia. And of course, taking a Orders character doesn't prevent you from taking a Theist regiment. It only prevents you from taking a Theist character, so we can get away with the Militia here. The big six-pack of them with the Errant and the Ashen Dawn, and this guy has Eccentric fighting style as well, just so he can get a couple more hits off with the Elysian Fragment turn, because it is actually Cleave +3. Excuse me, it's Cleave 3, so he'll just double that up with Elysian Fragment any other time he's Cleave 2, basically. Alright, Noble Lord. I really love the Noble Lord Warlord because he brings in the Imperial Officer or the Theist as the sub-faction and gives you the bonuses here. So the Household Guard will get the benefit of the Imperial Officer's supremacy ability, and same with the Men-at-Arms. Other thing I like about the Noble Lord is that he causes all of his... He causes all of the regiments in his warband to have veteran for free, which means that you're effectively getting 10 points free there, 10 points free there, and these guys become veterans with the veteran role here, and you get all the benefit out of it, in addition to, obviously, bringing in the bus from the Imperial Officer as well. Imperial Officer, probably the best character in the faction still to this day, because he just gives you these free battlefield drills, and you no longer have to use them as draw events. He just pops them out at the start of every turn and just picks 2 different units or the same unit to receive both things. He has flank naturally. Absolute bargain for 100 points in my opinion, and just continuing to use these smaller units. 100 Cadre is still probably my favorite regiment in the faction. They are probably the most valuable, really, from a lot of games I've played. Just so useful. They are not too expensive, great in close combat and shooting, and they have a little bit of resiliency, and they really benefit from the Imperial Officer's abilities. Having flank is amazing, being veterans, medium for scoring, and veterans, etc., for the reform and the opportunists on the Imperial Officer's turn. They're just really, really good. And lastly, the Mage. We are trying out Talented, which allows you to use water or fire. I still feel like it's probably not worth it for 20 points, because on any given turn, you're going to be getting value out of one of the spells, and being able to pick between the two of them doesn't make a huge amount of difference. But I've been finding water very helpful lately, and having the ability to hit the fireball on turns where everything's healed to full could be useful. One other thing that I found points for in this list was front of the line, giving bravery to the Household Guard. One weakness here is that with just Resolve 3 on the Lord and the Household Guard themselves, then sometimes Terrifying can be a real problem, but they're much more resilient with Fearless there, and the ability to heal them back with the Mage, and of course the reroll 6s from professional troops. Opponent running a list based on the models that he has. Like, we've explained to him that obviously chariots are the #1 best thing in this faction. Talos is also quite strong, and some of the newer stuff like Sacred Band, very, very good as well. He is going to be using some Sacred Band. There's one in the Agema, but it's going to be proxied by a Phalangite stand. In general, though, Aristarch Warlord, we're running Initiative over here, which is a pretty cool ability. Giving one regiment a free move or reform that doesn't cause it to be activated is very powerful. The thing that sort of holds it back is that you still need to activate your Aristarch, then you go and activate something else that is going to then charge. So your opponent does have a turn to respond to it. It's not going to be a chain reaction kind of thing. So, but having said that, being able to increase the threat range of something is very powerful. It gives you the ability to activate Aristarch very late in the stack after your opponent's run out of activations nearby and then charge something in unexpectedly. So I think it's really, really good ability. Other than that, he's generally taking things that he has the models for, Selenoy and Companion Cav. Polymarch, always with the Blade of Achilles, very, very strong item, giving you Cleave 4. The Satoroi, nice to see them in there. They a bit of a maligned unit. Some people really don't like them. I think that they're a difficult regiment to use, and they're quite expensive, but they have a lot of potential. And lastly, the Eidolon and the Inquisitors here. Still going strong with those. So we're going to be playing Forlorn Hope. That is a mission which delivers a lot of points for killing things. So sometimes if you pull ahead on scenario, but your opponent has really just destroyed your entire army and a lot of characters in it, they just can get so many points there that you might still not be able to win. In general, though, it does come down to those two flanks that we're talking about to gain 2 VPs per round and 3 VPs if you pull ahead in the game and you get 3 circle zones at once. So if we just jump into the game here, I've got my pen open here. So we've got a large zone on your left, small one on your right, small one on your left, large zone on your right, and there are going to be 2 little objective thingies in here which you can kill to get some points. So the main idea is you move up, take this zone, move up, take this zone, and you just try and find a way to punch through with the left hook or the right hook. We've got 3 forests here and a swamp, which is water terrain on these little plastic bits, and these large green trees, these are really cool. I got them from a pet store for an aquarium, and because they're not very practical for an actual forest, they're going to be impassable, but when you look at the terrain, it does feel very natural and very high fantasy with all of those forests and things in there. All we really need is hills, to be fair. Down the bottom right, you can sort of see what I'm doing at the start of my turn, which is the order of the shield coming on first, because he'll be able to score, given that his militia are at least 4 stands. The mage can as well, so with 2 light regiments, I can roll 2 4 or less, and I think I picked up one of them at least, so I want to pick the mage there, so I've got 2 light units moving forward, and I can start scoring both zones at the beginning of turn 2, very important. So that's what we managed to do here. So just activating the characters first, then the light regiments, shunting them both forward towards the zones. He's only got a Selenoy to begin the game with, the only light regiment in his army. So you can see on the right-hand side, the militia move up with the Order of the Shield character in the left-hand corner, and the mage coming up right next to them to be able to heal, but also to shoot at that little objective in the front there. Note that I could have moved to the left, allowing me to move onto the zone straight away, but then I realized, hey, in turn 2, the Hunter Cadre are coming on so quickly, and the zone's close enough to my table edge that I can do the scoring with that unit instead and use this regiment here to just shoot that objective over the next 3 turns and potentially provide some healing to my characters unit with the Tears of Nino or water or whatever it is. And if they do come very close with a Selenoy, I can at least shoot them with a fire dart. So in turn 2, we've got the Imperial officer coming on with flank, and then the Noble Lord picked as a discretionary move on with the Household Guard, and of course the Hunter Cadre having flank. So quite a lot of cards on turn 2, and this is the real benefit of having mediums with flank in your army, which I have 2 of, being the Imperial officers, natural ability, and the Hunter Cadre. I think a more competitive list really should have 2 Hunter Cadre in it, just because they are so good. Alright, so Selenoy opening up on that objective, starting to plink it down for some points, and the militia moving onto the zone as we talked about, just tagging it with the command stand. My opponent bringing on the hoplites and the Aristarch on his right hand flank. This is opposite where the Hunter Cadre are going to be coming in from. At the time of the day we were playing, the sunset, caused a lot of shadows, so that was a bit of a challenge for me to deal with in terms of photo editing, but it still results in some really dynamic photos here. So, saw a Mage's unit shooting at the objective here with the crossbows, and then the Haspists moving up with their flank ability to start scoring on his left-hand side opposite my Militia. As advertised, the Hunter Cadre are able to move up, with their triple march, essentially where they've got a little bit of vanguard now, but it is more than enough to reach that objective when the banner is included for the +1. Over here, this is to the right of the hoplites. He's moving in with his Agema and the Polymarch, and you'll notice that the stand of phalangites at the bottom of the image, they are there to just proxy and represent the Sacred Band Auxiliary. On the extreme right-hand flank for me, I've brought on the Imperial officer with the crossbowmen. Thinking here is to use the battlefield orders to give harden to the militia, which helps to keep them alive, and also the crossbows themselves can have the murderous volley upgrade, which could be quite good. Maybe he should have been further to the left there, because I want to bring my Household Guard closer to the middle, and having hardened on the Household Guard would have been quite good, but didn't end up working out that way. So here they come. Excuse the dog in the background. So we've got the Household Guard moving straight in behind the Mage's unit. They are going to be a little bit roadblock bio, but we're just waiting for the rest of the army to arrive and really play a defensive game, because I've got much more shooting than my opponent does, so expecting him to come to me. I've actually managed to do a lot of painting on the Household Guard, finally, and they are starting to look really, really good. I love the way that they're just so well ranked up with all their spiky halberds and stuff, and I'll be adding another 3 stands to this regiment soon, which is going to be fun. All right, so opponent pretty spread out here. This is an overview photo of the end of the turn. He doesn't have a lot of vanguards, so he's only just scoring now with the Haspists, and I've got 2 zones, so I'm pulling ahead 4-2 at the end of turn 2, and that's a battlefield view from the opposite direction, where you can see I've got quite a few more regiments on so far, and I've got the scoring lead, and I've got a better ranged army than he does, so I am ahead here. My opponent would really need to play aggressively and try and beat me up out of those objectives to win this. So turn 3, Order of the Ashen Dawn coming in automatically, but they're coming on last because I really want to see as much of his positioning before I commit them to the field. I've got 3 characters going first because there's no action right now. I really want to force him to burn through the cards before I start. City-states, though, they've got the strategic stack, so they've got a lot of potential really to just wait out my activations as well, right? So Illinois continuing to shoot at that objective down to 2 wounds, and then the Household Guard reforming so that they will be able to move 11 inches past my gun line if they need to, because when they're in a 3 wide stack, the length of the unit will just be causing them to get stuck, and they won't be able to move past the other regiment without landing on top of them. So that's sort of what's going on here. I keep moving this thing around. Okay, Inquisitors and the Eidolon moving up the left flank. These guys are going up against the Imperial officer, and this is a good match for the Inquisitors. Obviously, they're not going to take that much damage from shooting. They're very fast, and they will destroy the Mercenary Crossbowmen very easily, so I'm going to have to bring something in to help defend there. We have the Aristarch's unit of hoplites moving further towards the zone that the Hunter Cadre are camping, and to the right of him we have the Agema with the Polymarch. Note that these guys will be able to get some additional movement from the initiative ability, which is being pumped out by the Aristarch. So seeing his Inquisitor show up, and again the deep shadows of this room here making it hard for me to edit, but I managed to blast up the shadows in the photo editing, and we've got the Imperial ability of the Vanguard from the Imperial officer on the men-at-arms here to move forward. They want to try and tank at least 1 turn of damage from the Inquisitors, allowing me to go in with the crossbowmen and get some serious shooting off with them, possibly with the murderous volley upgrade from the Imperial officer. So that's one thought there. He is continuing to outflank me with his Agema. What it's looking like will happen here is that the Hunter Cadre will get destroyed by the Agema, and then it'll be a matter of me battling both the hoplites and the Agema with my Household Guard, which is a good matchup for my opponent, given that he's got the Cleave for Polymarch in there as well. But I still have my Knights, I still have my Ashen Dawns, so I'm going to want to counter-deploy here. All right, so at this point we have the Imperial officer just repositioning a little bit to get to a spot where it'll be able to shoot the Inquisitor's regiment in the flank if they go for the men-at-arms. Haspis moving forward, they are well aware that there is an Elysian fragment in the Militia regiment, so they don't want to get charged and wiped out by Cleave 3 too quickly, but then again they are being shot at by the Mage's unit after she rips up that objective, and there's a fire dart there, so they've got to do something. Alright, Hunter Cadre moving back a little bit and taking a few pot shots at the hoplites, which obviously doesn't cause very much damage at all, but they are willing to take a hit for the team and screen things a little bit, and by twisting around a little bit, they can expose the flank of the enemy regiment. So what I mean by that is that when he charges in with his polemark, if I bring in the Ashen Dawn, like, right up next to them, or the Household Knights, I can get a flank charge if he commits in that way. So he's also bringing in the Companion Cav behind the Polemarch's regiment. This is a good play because these guys could potentially fend off anything that I bring in to flank the Agima's unit. So we're just sort of playing a little bit of chess here, jockeying for position. And there's the Order of the Ashen Dawn opposite those guys. So if I just grab the pen, they've moved in only a little bit, but the thinking is that with the Hunter Cadre there, they're able to score from this this objective here, giving 2 points a turn. And he's got his Polemarch and Agima here and his hoplites here. If he was to charge into that regiment, they are going to line up right in front of the Agima, and then I made sure that there was going to be a 7-inch gap there so that these guys get an automatic charge, and I'll go into flank and I'll absolutely wipe out whatever regiment is there with these guys, really netting me a big advantage. But he's got the Companion Cav in now, so if the Companion Cav move in to store me, and these guys take an additional turn to destroy them, the Agima might be able to wipe this unit out and get into this regiment here at the same time that the hoplite does. So that's where the game is really happening right now. So if we go to turn 4, Hunter Cadre first because I'm afraid that they may get charged, so I at least want to get a volley out of them. Then we activate the next 3 characters waiting for him to do something. We've got some regiments after that, and the Household Knights coming last. I'm expecting his Satoroi to appear to ambush me, in which case I want to get the Knights right next to them to try and deal with that. And then Order of the Ashen Dawn last because I just want to wait for his Polemarch's regiment to commit. So there's the overview of the battlefield. You can sort of see the description of what I mentioned there on the left. We've got the Companion Cav coming in to get in the way. These guys threatening to charge here and to take the zone and start scoring. On the right-hand side, his what do you call these guys? Inquisitor's going to come over here against my Imperial officer, but he still hasn't deployed his Satoroi. They're going to come in like through here or around here, right? So I want to have the Knights ready to go. Only the Selenoi in the middle, so I'm much stronger in the middle, but on the sides he's threatening to outplay me. So another overview photo, you can see on the right-hand side, we've got the Companion Cav going up the right, up against the Ashen Dawn, all right? So over here we have the Hunter Cadre going first. They're going to be just shooting at the Polemarch's unit before he's able to get the Fight in the Shade ability up and running. Inquisitors moving forward, just getting ready to go after these men-at-arms over here. Companion Cav doing a double march, getting into position where they might be able to get in the way of the Ashen Dawn next turn. And over here we've got the Imperial officer opening up at the Inquisitors, shooting a few crossbow bolts at them. Not getting a lot of damage done, but at least sending a warning shot there really, and causing them to have to make a bit of a decision about where to commit. We now have the Hephaestian moving through the middle, and this is good because it does give him spell interference against my Water Mage, and it means that if he goes after my Militia with both the Haspis and the Giant, I'm only realistically going to be able to take one of them down, and if he punches through the middle, that could allow him to score from these 2 circles here. Alright, so Aristarch moving forward and just taking the zone really. So if I don't move anything else into the zone, he is going to have more stuff on there for scoring, which could be a problem because if we just grab the pen here, he's got one zone at the back, that's the small zone, and here's the big zone, and his regiment is actually deployed on both circles. So he will be able to take the scoring lead if I don't do something about that. We also got the Polemarch down the bottom right, as you can see. So we do have the Polemarch just reforming a little bit now. They've taken 1 stand's worth of damage from the continued shooting from the Hunter Cadre there, but he's choosing not to commit. He's just getting just next to that zone there, giving some room for the companion cav to come past. He knows the Ashen Dawn aren't realistically in charge range right now, so just jockeying for position, and this means that he's now got 4 stands on the zone if you count the additional stand there from the character in the Agima's regiment. So with my other unit of men-at-arms, again using Vanguard from the Imperial Officer's faction ability, these guys do a triple march, well double march plus the Vanguard speed, onto the board, and they're putting 1 stand onto the zone, so starting to count back in my favor, and just getting in the way. Again, if the Polemarch attacks here, I still have the Ashen Dawn and the Hunter Cadre, and that will last them a bit longer, and these men-at-arms really will trade well against the Polemarch's regiment, because the Polemarch obviously way more expensive, and if he destroys the unit of men-at-arms, then I can attack back. But if he doesn't do anything, I can just charge him and do a bit of damage with the boys, right? So they are a speed bump, but really good for upping the positioning for me. Speaking of men-at-arms, we have these guys on the other side just turning around a little bit, just to make sure that if he decides for some reason to charge over here against the crossbows, I can get a flank charge in through that side. But if he inevitably goes after these guys, I can shoot him in the flank with this regiment. I could use the Imperial Officer's main ability to get Opportunist and stuff like that, and that would be really painful. If I drop him down to just 1 stand of Inquisitors, then I can potentially win the roll next turn and delete the entire unit just with shooting. Alright, so my opponent makes a little bit of a questionable play here by moving in with the Haspis against the Militia. Now, the Militia aren't going to be able to kill them this turn, because the character is already activated and he can't use Elysian Fragment, but next turn he is going to be able to do that. And I do have the Mage. You can even see her head sticking out at the bottom of the photo there. She is in range to either heal or to put a fire dart straight into the Haspis. So by moving the Haspis in now, he is going to lose them. What I really would have done is I think I would have waited with for another turn with them and marched in with both the Haspists and the Hadfistian fairly late in the turn and attacked me with both of those regiments. Now, the play from me here is to actually double march with the Household Guard. Note that they are positioned in a special way where there's a stand missing there because I've only got 6 stands plus the character. And I'm actually able to do a bit of Tetris here and fit between the Hunter Cadre and the crossbow regiment unit there, because my stands are looking like this, and it puts me on the objective with 3 or 4 stands, maybe even 5. And because I'm defense free with rerolling 6s and I've got the Water Mage nearby, I can withstand a charge from one of these regiments. Probably not both, but he can't really physically get in there with both. And if he charges in with the Hoplites don't have cleave. I'm expecting to survive that, and then I've got Caledburn from my character. The Household Guard will do quite well against Hoplites long run, especially with the Mage in behind them. If he goes in with his Agima, it's really just the character that's going to do a lot of damage to that regiment. And then I've got regiments to shoot with the Hunter Cadre. I could possibly flank with the men-at-arms. So this is a strong play here from the Household Guard to ensure that my opponent doesn't have any easy choices to take that zone off me. Alright, so the Agima going in against the men-at-arms, and although the photograph makes it look very violent, and you'd think that the men-at-arms would die here, he has chosen not to use his clash action. So they rush in, they put up their shields, they start using some trash talk and bad language, but there are no blows exchanged. And the reason for that is that he knows the Ashen Dawn activating last. And if he destroys the men-at-arms here, the Ashen Dawn simply charge in and completely obliterate this regiment, and he loses his character for no reason. And he would have already activated his character, so he wouldn't get the cleave 4. So he quite wisely chooses not to clash. He's got a couple of stands on the zone here, and he will be able to start scoring if I don't do anything else. And it's just going to delay, it's going to buy him time to get the companion cav in the way of the Ashen Dawn, etc., etc. All right, we have the Mage, who is able to activate, and although I've taken a couple of wounds from the impact hits from the cows there, she uses Fire Dart against the Haspis and does very well. She does about 5 wounds worth of damage to them because of lucky rolls and unlucky rolls on his part, but that just sort of illustrates the danger that this Haspis regiment actually is in. And then, of course, we have the Satoroi. What they do here, and excuse the shadows, is they march on through there, and then they do a free reform with their liquid formation, so they can charge the Imperial Officers Regiment at the start of the next turn, while the Inquisitors go in here against the Men-at-Arms, and that will just really crush my right-hand flank. So that's what the Satoroi have been waiting for. My opponent has been using his discretionary pick to keep them off the board until this moment, and now he makes the money play. But of course, I have been keeping my Household Knights in reserve for exactly this moment, so I march them in behind the Satoroi. Surprise! Meaning that if I win the roll, I'll charge him, wipe out his regiment, and my regiments will be safe, and then the Knights can help my Imperial Officer fend off the Inquisitors, and that will allow me to come out on top on this flank, and that will be very powerful in the long run for the game. Ashen Dawn over here, as you can see, they've been blocked off by my own Men-at-Arms because my opponent has chosen not to damage the Men-at-Arms at all, so I can't really do very much there. So now we're going on to turn 5, and as you can see, I want to activate the Household Knights first, for obvious reasons. They'll be able to charge the Satoroi, wipe them out for free, and my opponent won't be able to charge my regiments. Then we are going with the Militia, and they're simply going to clash the Haspis. No need to use Elysian Fragment at this point. After that, we've got Men-at-Arms, just in case the Polemarch doesn't attack them, Hunter Cadre to shoot at the Polemarch's regiment, and then the Household Guard. These guys activating quite late in the day because really they're only up against hoplites, and I've got the reroll 6s, I've got a lot of guys in there, good resolve, etc. I think I'm going to be okay. And then of course the Mage at the very end to do healing, order the Ashen Dawn to attack after my Men-at-Arms have either died or withdrawn. Overview of the battlefield, you can see that my opponent does have an opportunity to get in the way with the Companion Cav, as we talked about. And through the middle, we've got the Household Guard inevitably going to be fighting the Hoplites at some point later in that turn. The Agema, who chose not to get into combat with my Men-at-Arms, they're going to need to do something because I've got point-blank shooting from the Hunter Cadre turn after turn there. In the middle, we have the Militia and the crossbows against the Haspis right there, but the Giant is going to be making his way into combat. As I talked about, like if he had kept the Haspis back and moved the Giant through to maybe deal with these guys first, I think that would have been big. And then, of course, the other stuff going on in the background there with the Satoroi and the Inquisitors. You can sort of see over here what's going on. So my opponent wins the roll. Quite a crucial win there. And he turns his regiment around and attacks the Knights. He does have Cleave 1 and able to present the shield from the front. That will mean that they can survive better against the Knights. I felt like maybe he should have just taken the win against the Imperial Officer and destroyed the Imperial Officer, because that gets rid of my supremacy turn, and you know the Knights can just trade with the Satoroi, and then the Inquisitors can pick up the Men-at-Arms and go after the Knights. But we talked about it, and my opponent came up with this play, and maybe he's right, because the Satoroi did very, very well against the Knights, killing 2 stands right away. I did roll kind of poorly, but the Satoroi are quite a good regiment, and this means that he is... he does have an advantage on this flank, so fair enough. So the Knight attacking back with just, a few attacks here, not really able to get much done, but the Satoroi really doing some good work here, very impressive. Over here, the Haspis fighting against the Militia, doing a little bit of damage, but they have lost a stand, so that is a thing. And I've got pretty good resolve there from the character, so I'm not really losing too much. Inquisitors charging against the Men-at-Arms and doing wonders against them. These guys are absolute beatsticks. And of course the Eidolon being in there with the multitude of attacks. And terrifying against Men-at-Arms, very effective. Men-at-Arms down to resolve 1, so unsurprisingly I do lose this unit in one fell swoop. Over here, the Imperial Officer doing a move around just to get into effective range, and importantly moving out of line of sight of the Inquisitors so they can't charge me straight away, and then launching a volley against these guys to strip a bunch of wounds down, but other than that, not really getting much damage done. Over here, the Hunter Cadre shooting at the Agima's unit and killing another stand with the guys, because I'm firing directly at point blank range, effective range, at with aiming for the plus volley. So these guys doing very, very well. We have the Companion Cav coming in here, and they do a march charge into the men-at-arms here, and this means that the Ashen Dawn are going to be able to go after them, but it does mean that his Agima are going to be free for another turn without being destroyed by the Ashen Dawn, so that's a good little play. Over here we have the Household Guard against the Hoplites, and the problem with my positioning here, actually, the mistake that I made, is that my character is at the other end, and because the units started so close to each other, there wasn't enough movement to wheel around and get perfect contact. So my character with Caledburn is not actually touching any enemy regiments, which means that I'm going to be doing damage very slowly here. And my opponent doing quite well to attack me as well, getting some wounds back on the other side. So the Household Guard have done the damage there, taken a couple of stands off, and then the Aristarch attacking back and also taking a couple of stands off. So you can see there in the distance that I'm actually down to 3 stands. I rolled very, very badly on armor saves, even with the reroll 6s. So the Mage moving up now and actually putting healing on to bring a stand back. And I must say that the Mage performed very well this game, with not just the fire dart but the water spells as well, which does lend weight to the argument that talented is actually a good ability. I still think it's probably better just going with water for the entire game and saving 20 points, but this is a little data point, a little bit of evidence that maybe talented is very good. Alright, we have the Selenoi now, which have destroyed the objective on his side. We both have, so we've both gotten points off that. So they move up, and they get a bit of shooting against the Mage's unit, picking off a couple of wounds from the crossbows. You can also see in the distance there that the Militia have destroyed the Haspists now, primarily because the character in that unit has Eccentric fighting style and Cleave 2 naturally, so I don't even need to have an Elysian Fragment. We're saving that for the Giant. So with all of those attacks, plus the character, the Haspists have been deleted. Alright, over here, the men-at-arms actually getting to fight against the Agima, but of course they only have 2 stands left. They get very little damage done at all. We have the Polymarch attacking back and deleting them, completely wiping them out, so that frees his regiment up. And they're able to turn around with their liquid formation, getting ready to flank me, but he's only got his command stand left plus the character, so he's about to lose that character. It will be quite important as to who activates next turn at the beginning, right? Because I've only got 3 stands of Household Guard left, so he attacks that regiment with the Polymarch, wipes me out, the Hoplites are free to kill the Hunter Cadre, and so on. So here now is the Giant. The Giant's moving forward far enough that the back of his stand is touching the big zone on his side of the table so he can continue scoring. But if he plays the Giant first and the Giant charges my regiment, he probably will kill me, because the Giant is going to do impact hits, and then his Cleave hits with a Trident, and then he's going to do Trident Strike. Even though I have the Mage nearby for spell interference, it's still going to do a lot of damage. The Militia don't have that much armor, and with the Terrifying, etc., that's going to be really good as well. Presumably, I don't have Bravery here, although I might do. Let me just have a quick look. So, oh yes, Drive for Justice gives them Fearless. So that's one reason why I like this kind of build, right? It's actually very handy, because one weakness of the Militia, as you guys can imagine, is resolve checks, and having Fearless in there is very, very helpful. Alright, so we have a stand coming back here from the Mage. That is the Household Guard regiment replenishing a bit, and Water Mage, I hated her before the rework, but now I really, really rate her quite highly. Alright, so the Companion Cav against the Ashen Dawn, not exactly the fairest fight, as you can appreciate, and the Ashen Dawn severely outclassing the Companion Cav, unfortunately, and completely smashing them to the ground. Alright, so that leaves us with this kind of setup here, where we have the Ashen Dawn, who can easily charge into the Agema and wipe them out in the next turn if they activate before the Agema do. We've got the Household Guard in close combat with the Aristarch. I've sort of worn them down to 3 stands plus the character. I've got 4 stands plus the character thanks to the healing from the Mage right here. But if he attacks me straight away with the Agema's regiment, that's going to be quite painful with the Agema command stand and the Cleave 4 Polymarch right there. I can follow up with Hunter Cadre, but I don't really want to lose the Household Guard too early. In the middle, Selenoi aren't going to do too much, but the other main thing is this. Like, if his giant attacks me first, I'll probably lose that unit, but if I attack him first, still got the Elysian Fragment. So that's going to be a ton of Cleave 3 hits onto the giant, which he is probably not going to survive from. We have 1 knight against the the Satori in the back there, and the Inquisitor is able to turn around and go after my my crossbows. So my opponent kind of is winning on that flank, but I've kind of got the lead on this side, and in the middle it depends on the initiative roll. So what would you do in that situation? Think about how would your cards be stacked? Because one play here is to go with the Order of the Shield Militia first to make sure you kill the giant, and then you can just let this flank crumble because the Ashen Dawn are likely to clean everything up in the long run. Or you could go with the crossbows over here to try and deal with these guys before they do something. Or you could go with the Hunter Cadre to kill the Agema before they activate, etc., etc. My take on the situation is that you go with the Order of the Ashen Dawn first, because if he does ever activate his giant and kills the militia, I will actually likely have a few militia left over because they do have Hardened from the Imperial Officer, and they do have Fearless from the Order of the Shield, and there are a lot of them, right? And we do have Spell Interference from the Mage. So I might not lose the entire unit. I can then attack with the Errant of the Shield, do maybe 40% of his wounds, and then turn around with the Mage and shoot him, and I might still be able to get him in the late game, so it's not game over if I lose that much militia. But if the Polymarch attacks the Household Guard and wipes them out, and then it's eventually going to be just a slog between my Ashen Dawn and his Hoplites, which might take me a while to get onto the zones. So that's why I'm going with them first, followed by the Order of the Shield, then Militia, then the Household Guard, and then everything else later. Right? So that is where we ended up. So critically, I managed to win the dice roll. My opponent did win it previously to attack the Satori into the knight, so he won that one, I won this one. We do go with the Ashen Dawn into the rear charge here of the Polymarch, and obviously the Polymarch gets obliterated. One thing that I kind of forgot about was that he does get the die-fighting attacks onto me with the Cleave 4, which resulted in 5 wounds subtracted from 1 stand of Ashen Dawn, but, you know, that's life. Importantly, I've prevented him from going into the flank of the Household Guard, which would have been painful. So that happens. Then my opponent actually goes, for some reason, with the Hoplites, which I really feel like is a mistake. Like, from the City-States perspective, what you want to be doing is you want to be picking either the Agema or the Giant to go first, so that, you know, regardless of whether you win the roll or not, at least you're getting one, you know, item of value hitting at this stage of the game. But no, he's attacking with the Aristarch and the Hoplites and the Minotaur here, and this does do a fair bit of damage to the Household Guard, but doesn't quite destroy them. That enables me to activate Elysian Fragment with the Order of the Shield character, represented by this little model on the right here. We then charge with the Militia straight into the Giant with the Entourage activation, and the Giant is absolutely just wrecked by that, because the Militia, although they're Clash 2, they go up to Clash 3, and half of those hits are going to be Cleave 3, and then of course the character does a bunch as well, and then you're forcing the resolve checks on the Giant, so absolutely obliterated him. Over here, the Satori against the Knights, destroying the Knights and then turning around, so that's his next play. Over here we have the Household Guard rallying and going up against the Minotaurs, etc., and doing a bit more damage to the Hoplites. Over here we have the Inquisitors spinning around and charging into the flank of the Mercenaries. The impact hits do like 1 standard damage, and then next turn they'll be able to finish me off. Over here, the Mage able to move up and do a bit more healing on the Household Guard, just managing to keep them afloat, which is important. Like, if your healing is enough to, like, stop you losing from one of your key units and your Warlord, it's a pretty good spell, to be fair. And the spell interference from the giant is gone now. All right, Selenoy continuing to move forward and doing a little bit of chip damage onto the mage, but not that much. And then, as you can see, she's moving away. She's only got 3 wounds left on their command stand, so just trying to retreat a little bit from the Selenoy, because we don't really want to lose the mage. And of course, the mage can heal her own unit back, which is another beauty of water magic. Over here, we have the Aristarch issuing a duel, a challenge against the Noble Lord, and I said to my opponent, well, this is going to kill both of us, because I've got Eccentric fighting style. So no, Eccentric fighting style was on the Order of the Shield guy, so I can't remember what happened here, other than the fact that I accepted the duel just for fun, which I shouldn't have done, and he rolled very well, I rolled poorly, and the Aristarch survived and the Noble Lord died. So that's a blunder from me. I'm not going to do that again. Obviously, declining duels in this game doesn't really matter that much, so my recommendation is, if in doubt, don't take the duel, but I took it stupidly and lost my character, so that is a blunder. Over here, we have the Imperial Officers Regiment attacking back against the Inquisitors, not doing very much, as you can probably imagine. Hunter Cadre able to get a couple of shots off against the Aristarch, but they're mostly blocked off by the Household Guard, who continue to regenerate wounds. And then you can sort of see the overview of the battlefield, where I've pretty much come out on top, because what you're seeing here is that he has lost a lot of hoplites, and he's not collecting points from this zone on his side. The giant's dead, so he's getting no points from that side. Whereas I've got like 5 scoring stands over here. I declined the duel, which is important because I still have scoring stands, so maybe not as much of a blunder as we thought. And then of course the unit of Militia is still large enough to get the command stand scoring on that zone, so I'm adding 4 points to my total. He's going to beat up these guys soon and move across with his 2 scoring units to destroy the Militia and start scoring again, but with the Ashen Dawn on this side, I'm easily going to be able to get onto that zone. The Hunter Cadre can score here as well, and the Mage just needs to heal herself back and kill the Selenoy, to be honest. So pretty much 100 Kingdoms win by this point. So new turn, Militia first to get onto the zone, or at least tie up the Selenoy, and Ashen Dawn last. That's how we're looking at the start of the turn. So he does do some more damage onto the Household Guard. These guys can then rally and attack back, and we can hopefully heal them with the Mage, but they only have 1 Minotaur left alive. March charge with the Militia into the Selenoy to stop them from shooting at the Mage's unit so that she can survive and keep healing. That's the play there. Inquisitors marching over here to take the zone after obliterating the Imperial Officers Regiment. The Mage getting a stand back with her healing ability, which is quite useful. And then we had a turn here where the Selenoy are attacking the Militia and just whipping out the knives, doing a bit of damage. And 1 unit of Household Guard, I love this photo, against the Minotaur Cow. Great close-ups. And the sun had gone down by now, so the lighting was looking a lot better. Opponent, he only has 2 stands of Satoroi, because the Knights did kill 1 stand, but they are marching further forward here to try and take out that Mage. Hunter Cadre able to shoot at the Aristarch, and if not finish him off, at least come close. We then have the Mage turning around so that she can shoot at the oncoming Satoroi from the other side of the board. Ashen Dawn doing a march charge into here against the Aristarch and finishing him off, allowing me to score from the zone. And then after they've done that, they can actually march to the left so they can score the other zone, so they're actually on both zones right now. Alright, so the end of that turn, I've got 2 zones, he's got 0, so I'm adding another 4 points to my total, well ahead at this point. Militia going first to take on the Selenoy, and then we go from there. Now, hilariously, the Selenoy actually attacked my remaining 4 stands of Militia with the character, and they rolled incredibly well. Like, they got a ton of hits. Then I threw my dice looking for 2s or whatever I need, and I failed almost all of them, like 90% fails there, and then I failed a ton of resolve checks, and the regiment actually died, which was comical. It was hilarious. Selenoy just beat them up, the Militia completely died, and, game moves on. Household Guard, we've got 2 stands remaining after a bit of healing, and we're turning around. And then Hunter Cadre also just repositioning a bit for the oncoming Satoroi over there. In fact, these guys turning around just to get ready to shoot at the oncoming enemy regiments. We have the Household Guard running away. They're just positioning in such a way that the Ashen Dawn can move through them and past them in a later turn. Alright, so we have the Inquisitors moving on to the zone to start getting some points. Ashen Dawn doing a march charge into the Selenoy. performing a little bit better than the Militia did, of course, and yeah, destroying the Selenoy as you'd expect. Or at least tying them up and destroying them next turn, and then the Satoroi doing a double march over to the Mage's position, where hopefully they can win the roll and deal with the Mage. Oh, excuse me. Alright, so Mage trying to go first to destroy the Selenoy the Satoroi before they charge her, and that's how we look. He's got 3 units, I've got 4 units, but a much better position for me in this spot. Alright, the Mage wins the roll, goes first with the Fire Dart. I was thinking of doing healing, but that would have been a blunder because it wouldn't have done enough damage to break him. So what happens instead is that with all the crossbows and all of the Fire Dart, his unit is broken, he can't charge me, he has to rally and then charge. Can't do any damage here apart from impact hits, giving me an opportunity to Fire Dart him next turn. We've got the Fiend Hunters here against the Inquisitors, able to do more damage to them. Ashen Dawn absolutely ride down these poor old You can see the fear in their eyes as the Ashen Dawn just ride over them. And then we've got the Household Guard just camping at the back to do some scoring. A march charge into the to the boys here with the Inquisitors, of course evasion 2, so doing quite well against them, and Fearless. Ashen Dawn are able to move now over to the other zone on the other side of the battlefield after destroying the Selenoy. And what we want to do is go Hunter Cadre first to kill the Inquisitors, Mage next to kill the Satoroi. So there you've got it. Hunters versus the Inquisitors at the end of the game, a little bit of a brawl to finish us off, and that's pretty much the last photo. So pretty big win for 100 Kingdoms. I felt like it was kind of a close game. In terms of how I would have played that from the city-state side, I think, like I said, I would have tried to attack with the Militia with both the Haspis and the Giant at the same time. On that crucial turn where the Polemarch was threatening the Household Guard, I probably would have gone with the Giant first, because if you can conserve that Giant later in the game and threaten to just score from your opponent's objective and take out more regiments, he's so fast as well, you want to try and conserve him as well. I might have also placed the Satoroi in a different spot. Overall, I felt like matchup-wise, my list was stronger because he's not really using any of the new city-state stuff. This is a very old-school collection with no chariots, no Talos, no clock lights, no Sacred Band, apart from the proxies, of course. But it was a very fun game, learned a fair bit, and I really like the Order of the Shield, guys. I'm definitely going to be putting in a few more lists, but the rest of my models have shown up, so I'm going to be adding some more stuff soon and reporting back on that. But in the meantime, I hope you guys had a great time watching this, and please consider subscribing, liking the video, hit the bell notification, and we will have some more content for you soon.